Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Short Ball Podcast for another week. Split episode this week, so one coming out Wednesday when you'll be listening, or maybe you're listening later, I don't know. But one coming out today, purely reviewing the junior reps action, so junior reps focused stuff because we are right in the thick of it now. Prelim finals and then grand finals coming up this week, and then I'm going to do a longer one later. It's going to come out Thursday morning in its usual time slot, your usual 45 to an hour long episode talking about everything. I wanted to sort of split that up because I wanted to sort of deep dive into these junior reps finals. We'll move on to that. And there's a lot of talking points to come from New South Wales Cup and some Origin news to come out of the main podcast as well. So make sure you tune in for that. We'll get just straight into it with our performances as per usual. Performances in Harold Matthews and SG Ball. I've got two from each game, and only one of them is sort of just the tippity top performances from each game. For the Roosters, I thought it was two guys. My player of the match was Ty Skips. In the Roosters versus Steelers game, the Roosters, Harold Matthews, Ty Skips was my player of the match in that game. He had two tries. He had a couple of huge early plays in this one. He come up with, I think it was an intercept or a forced error about 20 odd minutes into the game that put them into good field position. He scored two tries. The second one was classy. The first one was just a really good line run and just powerful from the back row. He played really well on the weekend. In the second half, he was solid, did his job, but he really set up the game with some of those contributions early on during the game. And then Harper Boothroyd, when the game was there needing to be won, he was the guy that stepped up. He was good throughout the course of the game, and then late on, he throws a brilliant cutout ball to put Andy Toyer over. That gives them the lead, and then he throws another brilliant cutout ball to win it in the end, like just to shut the game down, and it's done. That was probably a better ball that put them up 36-26 with a minute to go, and put the nail in the coffin, suppose the term I'm looking for. He had 4 line break assists, 3 try assists, 2 offloads, and just came up with those clutch plays. And for Ty Skips, it was 2 tries, 2 line breaks, a couple tackle breaks, an offload, and 10 runs for 89 metres in the back rows. Solid effort over 60 minutes. So the both of them really clutch performances, or really clutch from Harper Boothroyd, and then Ty Skips just a brilliant performance to set up the win from him. In the next game, the Panthers versus the Knights in Harold Matthews as well. I thought the two standouts for the Newcastle Knights were Cade McKay and Malachi Fave-Eli. Cade McKay came up with 2 tries, including the one that sealed it at the end. His first try was classy, great kick chase, comes down with the ball and scores for them. He had 8 runs for 67, not huge. 24 tackles, which was good. It was just those 2 game-breaking plays that he had. The one at the end to finish it off, and the one where I'll talk about it a little bit later, but it was really a grinding set for set sort of contest, and he was the one that injected some life into it from an attacking point of view. So huge from him. Malachi Fave-Eli, he was huge. I'll talk a little bit more about his matchup on that left edge with the south right edge, which I spoke about in the preview, but he was dominant. 21 runs for 219 metres, 11 tackle breaks, 13 tackles without a miss. Just a very aggressive ball running, just strong out of yardage. He didn't have those mad attacking highlights, but he just did so many things right on both sides of the ball to put Knights into a position to win the game. I just visually watching the game as well. Like, those two were the clear standouts for mine. For the Knights SG Ball, Toby Winter, he was my Pathways player of the round. 2 tries, assists, came up with some huge defensive plays. I'll talk about them in a little bit more detail later. But he came up with some really big defensive plays throughout the course of this game. And on top of that, the attacking brilliance that we know Toby Winter can offer, especially, been following me for a while. You'll know how much I've highlighted him for his ability to create points. And he just did that again on the weekend. Mel Nonu, 155 metres, 3 tries. Like, you can't really look past that. He's been awesome this year. And, if it was still under 19s, or if it goes ahead as under 19s, he'd be right up there for the Queensland wing spot. But we'll discuss that on tomorrow's episode. Um, Rex Bathingthwaite in the Roosters versus Rabbitohs SG ball contest. He was my best on grounder there. Had a try and a try assist. His kicking game was good. Coming in, he sort of took control of the kicking. I'll talk about that as well when we get deeper into the game. But yeah, he just looked like he had his hands on everything good that the Roosters did throughout the course of this game. Uh, there's not much more to say on top of that. He did drop a ball early, which led to the first Haji Alvarez try. Tricky one to take under the contest and all that. But apart from that, he was really solid back there. And yeah, he just visually, every single time he touched the ball, it looked like the Roosters were going to do something. And on the other side of the park, Taji Alvarez, he was the same for the Rabbitohs. Whenever he touched the ball, he looked like he was going to go through, or he was going to set something up. He was throwing cutout balls, which was creating space on the outside. Or, he had 2 line breaks in this game, 1 try. He set up the second try with a line break as well. So he was very dangerous. Those two very class players from both sides, and they stood up when they needed to. The Roosters came away with the win in that one, 24-14. We'll get deeper into that contest when we get there. But we'll start off SG ball, Seagulls versus Knights. The Knights came away 40-6 winners, booking their spot in the SG ball grand final. I thought, they've won 40-6. It's a domination, really. Their defensive work really set the tone, or sort of established this win. It was 8 points to nil, about the 18th minute mark, around that. They defended 3 sets in a row on their line. Beau Hill came up with a huge stop on Ashton Large. Chase Butler had a couple of huge one-on-one tackles. Chase Butler was the one that I wanted to talk about first. I've already said he was the best defensive half, or he's the best defensive half in his age group. You've got guys like Carter Mariko, very good defensive half as well. But I think Chase Butler, I've seen enough from him over the last 2 years to say he's the best defensive half in the age group. And again, in this game, Tony Large and Beau McKee, who have been really dangerous on that right edge for the Manly Seagulls, they went at him a couple times, and he came up with a few huge one-on-one stops there, especially, in this period, the 18th to 20th minute mark that I highlighted. He came up with 2 pretty good stops there, one on McKee and one on Tony Large. The Honor Tony Large wasn't 1-on-1, but he drove back and won that contact there very convincingly. He's been very good on that side of the ball for a half, and a guy that I'm keen to see progress and keen to see how he goes in the grand final next week. It's going to be his second chance at a junior reps grand final in 2 years. He obviously took the Knights to the Harold Matthews grand final last year, but they fell short to Bishop Neal's Warriors. But yeah, he's another great performance from him. Beau Hill as well, huge stop on Ashton Large 1-on-1. I think I might have already mentioned that, but he was next on my notes. Toby Winter, he came up with a few huge stops as well. Anders Johansson takes one out of dummy half, and Toby Winter was the first into contact and won that physical battle and drove him back as well. Just all of those stops turned into, okay, they turned them around. It's 8-0. It could have well and truly been 8-6 at the end of that period, but no, they've turned them away. It's 8-0, and then they went down the field. Jalen Bishop makes the line break, then they go out to the right. I think it was Callum Elsley that might have scored at the end of that, or it was Mel Nott. It was one of those 2 out on the right. You could say one of those 2 scored pretty much every single one of the tries in the first half. I think they did, actually, because Mel Nott scored a first half hat-trick. Callum Elsley scored one of them. There might have been one more try in the first half. 24-0 went into the breakout, but that was really what won them the game, that 18th to you extended out to the 30th minute mark, because then they scored another 2 tries late before the halftime break. It was that defensive precedent that sort of helped them out. Curtis Mulherron, he was huge in this game. Running the ball, he was obviously very dangerous, but he came up with a few stops as well. Just an all-round, you wouldn't be able to find a guy that didn't play well for this team. Archie Micklewayne out on the left wing, I thought he was really good as well. Eye-catching performance in terms of a few of his stops and a couple of the contributions he had on the attacking side of the ball as well. You can't knock any of Newcastle's players, and that's what happens when you win 40-6. And I didn't think Manly were terrible. In terms of, it wasn't like they just offered nothing. They were still coming away with line breaks. They were throwing everything at the Newcastle Knights. Just the Knights were clinical, and the Seagulls were probably 90% of the way there. The right edge on fire for the Newcastle Knights. Toby Winter, I mentioned him before with our performances. huge both sides of the ball. But in attack, that right edge, whenever they went out there, it was pretty much him, skip to the outside to Elsley, to Nonu, or, he broke through a couple of tackles for his try assist for Elsley, got a flick pass away. It was a really mad try assist, and then he scored 2 tries going down the right edge as well himself. Mel Nonu, like I said before in the performances, 3 tries, 155 metres. He'd be right up there if he was picking a Queensland under-19s origin side. Anything else to touch on with this game? I've sort of covered most of what I want to do. 40-6 win. What else can you do but praise the Newcastle Knights for their performance? They were clinical. The large brothers in this contest, I know a lot of Manly fans want to know where they were at or how they went in this game. I thought they were dangerous as ever. Ashton Large could have very well scored a couple of tries. He scored one. On Tony Large, he had a couple of line breaks and looked very dangerous whenever he had the ball in his hand. They just could not get Manly into the contest because the Newcastle Knights forward pack won the battle. There was a few disciplinary errors from the Manly side, which allowed Newcastle into their end a lot of the time. And it just wasn't quite there for Manly, but I did think those two gave a good account of themselves. They weren't poor in this game by any stretch. So. I thought they were two of probably Manly's best. Tony Large was their best, not surprisingly so, but he just had, just a few moments where he looked like he was going to break the Newcastle Knights wide open. He did at certain times, but that Newcastle Knights scramble defence was just way too good. That'll be it for Seagulls versus Knights. I haven't left anything out of the notes there, so... we'll move on to the Roosters versus Rabbitohs. There's probably a bit more to talk about with these next couple of games because they were a little bit tighter and there was more major moments throughout the game. Whereas for the Seagulls and Knights game, it was you highlight how good Newcastle were and then you move on realistically. Rex Bathingthwaite, he put on a show in this one, as I mentioned before. He threw a mad cutout for a try assist. He scored a try himself. A very, very classy try. It was very interesting to see, with Carter Marika obviously out of this game through suspension. He'll miss the grand final as well. Very interesting to see how they ran that halves combination there. And I thought it was going to be Keone Anatolia-Chousas that came into the halves. Ended up being Zalen Ekapati went to 7. And Rex Bathingthwaite still played fullback, which I was sort of told that they were thinking about moving Zalen to fullback and Rex into the halves, but ended up playing out that way in attack. Rex still defended at fullback and Zalen defended in 3 in, but Rex did a lot of the kicking in this one, and I thought his kicking game was pretty good as well. Most of the stuff off the boot was through Rex. And it was just a very interesting dynamic there, but they both played really well in this game, and I think that was clearly the right decision to go with that. Rex can still just do his thing out the back defensively, and then in attack, he was just going to chime in and do what he does anyway. Try, assist, very good performance there. South started fast in this one. Their forward pack got right into the contest early. I thought Benjamin Cabery had some very good early touches. Both sides of the ball, he was good. I thought Cody Hill defensively was very physical. Their edges were punching holes through the Roosters early on. They put up a kick early. I think it was Fotumawala might have put up the kick. Taj Alvarez and left centre, don't have the name in front of me, were chasing through. Force the error on Rex Bathingthwaite. Might have been Caleb Creswell there. Yeah, it was Caleb Creswell. And, he ends up picking up the ball, plays the ball. Taj Alvarez just comes through and scores out of dummy half. That sort of set the early... that was the first try of the game. Go up 4-0, or 4-2 rather, because it was a penalty goal. And then, the Roosters, I thought that their forward pack really got into their work around sort of the 20-minute onward mark. Charleston Traore, Tula Seve, I thought were really good starting. Their second stints were very good as well. And I thought the bench did their thing. So Jersey 16, Agapetos Lote Fellow. He was really good off the bench as well. Kiwi import, I believe, from him. And he looks like he's very promising. He's an age up as well in SG ball. So you might be one to watch over the next 12 months. terms of anywhere else the game went, the Roosters kicked away with this game through the middle part of it. Zalin Ekapati in about the 50th minute scored the try that pretty much sealed it, made it 24 points to 10. And I just thought South needed to probably get Taj Alvarez a little bit more ball, because every single time he touched it, he looked dangerous. He had a couple of errors, a lot of errors, like, I think he had 3 in the game, but most of them were sort of in the contest or trying to do something, like a forward pass, and then up in the kick contest, which he was chasing through and putting pressure on every single kick chase that he had. He was throwing. His passing when they went to the left edge looked very dangerous. Just very interesting that they didn't get him a little bit more ball, especially with the way that he started the game. The try and the try assist, 2 line breaks in the first 20-odd minutes. And then, later in the game, they went out to his edge and they stripped the Roosters for numbers thanks to a cutout ball from Taj Alvarez, and they couldn't quite finish that off. But yeah, like I said, the Roosters forward pack, they probably just overran South. So they dominated the field position for the most part. Just won the physicality battle through the middle. I thought... the next note here, because I didn't really have anything that flows off that, but the next note that I do have here is the defensive work of both dummy halves. They're probably the 2 premier defensive nines in the game, and it was something that I highlighted coming in. Liam Bell and Cody Hill. Liam Bell's the Australian schoolboys number 9. Cody Hill's a guy who I would have picked for Origin of 19s for New South Wales. I think he's probably been the form number 9 in the competition. Both of them defensively really stood up. And Cody Hill had a line break in this game and done some classy things in attack, but it was mostly, he got through 40 tackles in this one, topped the tackle count again, and just in his contact, very physical, and just very, very good on the defensive side of the ball. There's not too much more I can say with that. He came up with a couple of nice stops close to the line. He got very physical on Atul Seve and Charleston Torore in that first 20 minutes as well, who were 2 guys who I mentioned were very good through the middle. But yeah, that first 20 minutes where South were winning the contest, it was largely to do with the defensive work, slowing down those middles early on, especially from Cody. And Ben Cabry, I thought, had his he was good in contact as well. Ben Cabry, I thought, in the early going, and he ran for 155 meters himself on top of the run meters. So top performance from those guys there. Joshua Festele, he was the next one I wanted to highlight. 2 tries, 2 line breaks, 188 meters. He was just very good out in the wing. His yardage work was good. He was good under the high ball, and scored 2 tries to top it all off. So top performances from him. Like I mentioned before, Caleb Creswell being at left centre. Ben Cabry started at lock, and Ben Cabry was good in this game, but it certainly is a little bit different having Dean Tower out there compared to Caleb Creswell, who's he looked like at different stages. I don't know if this was, I can't really recall if this was the case for the whole game, but at different stages he was sort of defending 3 in and Taj Alvarez was defending at centre. I don't know if they kept that or if it was just, at certain points. I know Caleb definitely defended at centre at different points as well, but he... I heard he was a half. I haven't seen him play half before. Maybe in the trials he went into that position a little bit actually, but like he from Queensland, I think he played halves up there. He's moved into this lock role where he's been really good. Center's a little bit different though. I didn't think he gave a bad account of himself at all. But just there is a certain level to it where it's like having to put Creswell into the centres and not get his work at lock, and then you don't have Dean there on the left edge for all the good things that he gives you as well. Like Dean Tower and Dane Jennings have been the best centre pairing in the comp this year. You do miss out a little bit there. That's not the reason why they lost the game. Like I said, Creswell was good in this game. He certainly did not give a bad account of himself at all. But it is, they do lose a little bit there. Yeah, so I just think those injuries, tough for South. But yeah, full credit to the Roosters and their forward pack for what they were able to achieve in this game. And they looked primed to go back-to-back in the SG Ball competition. Knights have been going very well. They finished 7th during the regular season. They've had to be up for a little bit of time to get to the point that they're at now. So it's going to be interesting to see how they go next week. And, they were the more clinical and dominant performance. And you look at the halves, Chase Butler at 7. If it was Chase Butler versus Carter Mariko, you're going, okay, this is going to be an all-time contest. But now, the Roosters don't have Carter. And, yeah, I'd get this game coming into it, I thought was going to be a very good game. I got a little bit of a weird feeling out of it that, both teams weren't at their absolute best. And that has to do with injuries and suspensions and all those sorts of things. But it wasn't the blockbuster you probably expected coming into it. And that, like I said, injuries, suspensions, that has to do with it. But, the Roosters, they looked primed to go back-to-back. Like I said, been the best team all year. Pre-season, I was saying it, they are stacked beyond belief, and finished third, got through the finals games with relative ease in terms of, they smacked the Storm week 1, and then against the Rabbitohs, it was a tight game for the most part, but they sort of kicked away through that middle period, and then, being up 24-10, it was sort of like, they've done it here. Zelen Ekapati, like I said, he had a class try at the end to sort of put the game to bed at about the 50th minute. He stepped through a couple of defenders and just, very classy involvement. He's been really good in attack with every single opportunity that he's had in this Roosters side, especially with Rex missing a few games to injury and whatnot. And yeah, I'm very keen to see how they go with Rex and Zalen there, and it's going to be it's just going to be very fun to watch an attack with those two in the positions that they are. And I thought Brock Elliott as well was pretty good on this left edge. He had a nice cutout pass for the Joshua Festele try. And like I said, the Roosters bench, they were awesome as well in this game. I've actually got numbers for the Harold Matthews, so I can probably dive a little bit deeper into that from a numbers point of view. I can obviously only really talk on the eye test and what I've seen and what the top performances were in the SG Ball, but maybe we can go a little bit deeper into Steelers versus Roosters. Harold Matthews, like I mentioned before, it's Harper Boothroyd and Ty Skips were the two best on ground. I don't need to say too much more about them. Marcus Sando, he's been the form lock of this final series. Every single game he's been top of the meters charts. Again here, 128 meters, a try, 20 tackles, top of the tackle count and the meters count. Very good lock forward, and he's been the form player of the finals. Certainly the form forward of the finals. I mentioned, I posted about him after the finals week 1. Finals week 2 is just as good, and then this game as well, tops a meter and tackle count again. He is flying at the moment. The Roosters skipper, Manatoya. I'll mention both of the Toya brothers, but Manatoya, 7 runs for 71. It was okay. His yardage work, and he's very physical. You know what you're going to get from him. Under the high ball, he came up with a huge catch in a good moment. He came up with the intercept right at the end. Just some clutch plays. He just looks very, very classy as a footballer, Manatoya. Defensively, came up with a few good reads as well. Just those little moments that help to win you games. He was winning all of those sort of little moments. He didn't pop out in the stat sheet, didn't have tries, line breaks, tackle breaks, all these different things. 7 runs for 71 meters, modest, but he just won those little interactions that he had throughout the course of this game, and that was a big reason as to why they won, especially those sort of interactions at the end with his defense and the intercept that he took as well, and that take that he had under the high ball under a lot of pressure, and he took it easy. Like he just, there's a lot of trust, despite him being an age up in this Harold Matthews competition. It seems like there's a lot of just trust and a lot of, safety when the ball's going out towards him. Early on, pretty back and forth game. I think I mentioned that before, but I've definitely mentioned it with a couple of games so far at least. It was actually very high quality, this game. Very limited errors. I think the Roosters completed at 96%. The Steelers completed at 80%. I think errors gifted the Roosters a lot of field position for their early tries. It was a drop right in their line at about the 10-meter mark that allowed Ty Skips to get his first try. But I think that was the case for the most part, that whichever team lacked in their discipline, or whichever team didn't really execute perfectly, gave the ball back to the other team, and then they scored. It was a high-scoring game, 36-26. The defense wasn't terrible, though. in the second half more so. I think there was a couple of bad defensive moments in the first half, especially, that Roosters right edge ran rampant throughout this game, and in that first half in particular, I think they scored 24 points, a couple of tries down that right edge, which weren't ideal. But yeah, penalties and set restarts and errors pretty much led to every single try, especially in that first half. So it was just, whichever team could stay disciplined the longest was going to win this game, and the Roosters did that. 96% completion rate is huge. The penalty count wasn't too bad from either side. And they dominated the run meters. They dominated all these yardage stats that you can dominate, and they came away with the win. Their forward pack very intimidating. Cooper Tessariero got penalised a couple of times, but geez, he can hit in defence. That contact in defence is so crucial in establishing a physical dominance over an opposition team, and they were able to do that. Their back rowers, Ty Skips, he scored 2 tries. He was very physical in attack. He's physical in defence as well. Cooper Tessariero, Marco Sando mentioned him. Just topping the yardage and topping the tackle count. Very physical there. He as well got penalised once or twice for a couple of silly things around the ruck, but it's all a part of just the dominance that they've had through their forward pack and how intimidating their forward pack is. They lost Fido early in this game as well, and their bench forwards came on and done a really good job at maintaining that aggression that helped them to win this game. And that's really what done it for the Roosters. Their middle, has been the case throughout the whole game, throughout the whole final series, it's their middle and their forwards generally that have been winning them these games. And then off the back of that, your Harper Boothroyds, your Charlie Webb. Charlie Webb was awesome as well. I actually forgot to write his name down here in the notes, but, his first half, he had a, set up the right side nicely with a couple of tries. He had a line break, ran for good meters as well. I think it was 7 runs for about 116 meters or something along those lines, and cut a heap of tackle breaks, line breaks, all those sorts of things. So he was very good. Charlie Webb, very creative as usual. But those guys, Webb, Sam Large threw a mad cutout ball to score on the right side. Amaziah Pritchard's try, I think, was off for Sam Large, 3-man cutout. Those guys are playing this really good footy. Harper Boothroyd setting up these outside backs. Levi Scarlett had another pretty good game. He had a couple of errors in this one as well, but he, for the most part, was very good, physical enough defensively, good out of yardage, scored a couple of tries as well. And all of that, he's just a well-oiled machine. And like I've been saying over the last couple of weeks, they've been building so nicely. And from 1 to 13, 1 to 17, very, very good across the park. Forward pack's doing their job, and then off the back of that, the backs are playing good footy. I thought for the Steelers, they took the lead not late in this game, but with about probably 15 minutes to go. It was Fletcher Couchman with the offload to Asher Chapman. I thought Fletcher Couchman was probably the Steelers' best in this game. His jersey just kept popping up everywhere. He was good carrying the ball defensively. He was popping up everywhere, and had a couple of nice offloads as well that led to a bit of expansive play for the Steelers. And Asher Chapman, that try that he scored was elite. He just goes through, burnt the fullback with pace, and scored in the corner to get them up 26 points to 24. Just unfortunate late in the game. They just couldn't quite slow down the Roosters' momentum. And then, with the game there to be won, it was Harper Boothroyd, cut out ball to Andy Toya, and then, Mana Toya and Andy Toya, they were both huge. The younger brothers are Rob Toya, but they're, in this Harold Matthews competition, playing very, very good footy, especially this back half of the year. Like I've said, they've built really nicely, and the Roosters are peaking at the right time, and hence why over the last couple of weeks I've sort of said they're right up there in terms of winning the comp. And then, the Panthers-Roosters game leading into that, I said the winner of this game will win the comp, and I'm going to stick with that. I think the Roosters are just playing a very high level of footy, and Andy Toya comes up with the try. He came up with a good defensive stop out on the right edge. Mana Toya, those plays that I mentioned before as well, playing very good footy out there. You could really mention pretty much the entirety of the Roosters side, but it's just just a very classy win against a top opposition. Like the Steelers came to play, like they were good. But the Roosters, when you complete at 96% and your forward pack is marching as well as they are, it's very, very difficult to beat. And the Steelers gave a very good account of themselves. But yeah, 36-26 full time, and Roosters go on to the grand final. Last game, Rabbitohs versus Knights. I will start off the Knights, the winners. I'll start off by praising them. Get into the Rabbitohs because I think there's a lot of talking points to come from the Rabbitohs perspective. But like the Knights left edge, they're solidifying themselves as the best in the competition. Sort of been saying that for a while. Riley Rostron, one of the form players, Cade McKay, he's been awesome in the back row. He was in my team of the year. And Malachi Fava-Eli was a guy who probably just missed out on my team of the year. He was right up there. He had a battle with Diesel Galanta, which was two of the premier centres in the competition. They had an awesome matchup, but I'll talk about that in a second. But, 219 metres, 11 tackle breaks. It all visually reads very well, but he just won his contact, found his front, made a couple of post-contact metres every single time he ran the footy. Off the scrum, there was moments where, he started off their set. At one point, they were trapped inside their own 10. It was a scrum, but, still inside their own 10. And his first carry got them up to about the 30-metre mark. Just very physical, very strong, just really good in this game. And like I said with Cade McKay, very back and forth contest, not really either side giving an inch. And then a kick goes up. Cade McKay's the one chasing through and wins that contest and scores a try. Just those game-breaking moments that he can have, and he did it against the Panthers as well. His kick chase earlier in the year, about round 6, I think it was. His kick chase was a huge part to them winning that game, and he scored a mad try and set up another really crazy try in that contest. And he's just been the premier back rower in the competition. And you're going to see a very good matchup next week. Cooper Tessiero's left side as well. So they're both left side back rowers, but they were my back rowers in my team of the year, those two guys. So very keen to see how they go next week. It wasn't like a super, it wasn't individuals just going absolutely crazy in this game. It was just a good team performance from the Knights. Their defence, I thought, was very good. They shut down the Rabbitohs on multiple occasions. The Rabbitohs got into the red zone so many times, and I'll speak about that in a second. They got into attacking territory so many times, and the Knights were able to just keep holding them back, and they won this game through their defence for the most part. And, Malachi Fava-Eli was very good. Cade McKay broke the game open, but across the park, you can't really say too many had shocking games. I thought Chase Furman, he led the side around nicely. Kicking game was good. Just did what he had to do, and Riley Roshan the same himself. Just a solid and good win. And Eamon Gleeson, he scored to put them up 12 points to nil at the break. He was good in this game as well, and yeah, just you can't talk too negatively about the Newcastle Knights in this one. Solid team performance, and I've mentioned those individuals that really stood up and broke this game open. Rabbitohs, they, like I said, a lot of red zone opportunities, couldn't quite execute on it. Specifically in that first half, they just had chance after chance after chance that they couldn't get it right. And, the Knights didn't make that mistake. They scored twice. They had their chances as well that the Rabbitohs shut them down. The Rabbitohs, I thought, defensively were pretty good. And it was very interesting to get down there. And, I was right up along the fence line and able to hear the communication. And that right edge defensively, they knew they were up for a task. And Diesel Galanta, defensively, been very good. Been a very good centre all year. And he was again here. And his battle with Malachi Fava-Eli, like they just went at each other all game, and neither allowed the other an inch really, and they both ran for huge meters. Diesel Galanta 13 for 158, and like I said with Malachi, 21 for 219, and tackle breaks galore. And out of that scrum play that I was mentioning, Diesel was yelling like loud comms. Malachi, going to Malachi. They got up off their line and, physical enough contact, but he was still able to bust off those post-contact meters that he could. And yeah, it was just this was a pretty high quality game overall. Like I thoroughly enjoyed it. And, the Rabbitohs forward pack They were good. The Knights defensively were good. Rabbitohs defensively, I thought were pretty good as well. Like the Knights only had one line break in this game, and that was for Eamon Gleeson's try. Apart from that, Cam McKay scored a try off an intercept and off a kick. So you can't really negatively talk too badly. You can't talk too negatively about either of these teams. And the Rabbitohs, apart from the fact that they did blow a few red zone opportunities, I've got to say it because I've got to judge the game objectively and judge it the way I saw it. The officiating in this game was dreadful. 9-3 penalty count, and like a lot of the time I was sitting there going, what was that for? I didn't think either team was particularly ill-disciplined, and I just thought a lot of these penalties were very, very poor calls. And the Rabbitohs, they won every single major attacking statistic in terms of they won their run meters by, I've actually got it written down here. They won the run meters by 350. Post contact, they won by 250. Line breaks were 4-1. Average set distance 47 meters for the Rabbitohs, 32 for the Knights. Offloads, they won at 8-4. They lost the penalty count 9-3. And worst of all of that, in terms of the officiating and how the officiating impacted this game, and like it impacted the result. Full credit to the Knights, they won the game, and in my opinion, the best team always really wins because you've got, when you win the run meters by 350, post contact by 250, you've won the line breaks 4-1. It means that you had opportunities to win this game, and you haven't taken them. In saying that, the obstruction call for Charlie Baidup's try was fucking ridiculous. I was sitting there watching that game, I think it was Jaden Bishop running that line. He goes nowhere near anyone. And Charlie Baidup just goes straight through, the half turned in. It was a poor defensive read. There wasn't even contact. Like, what are we talking about? Like, that was the one that I went, like, that was the most egregious. There was a lot of blowing up about the forward pass call. I'm fine with that. I thought it was pretty flat. I didn't think it was forward. There was a lot of blowing up about that play in particular. I can't blame the rest for that. But that obstruction call was egregious. Then there was another one later in the game. Xavier Sulavale-Lemoine goes over. Just crashes over. Like, doesn't slide over, doesn't nothing. Literally just crashes over the line. And I've seen this now zoomed in. I've seen every single angle you could possibly have. He literally just falls over and lands on the line pretty much first contact, and then like rolls forward a little bit and then gets up and celebrates. But he lands on the line and it got called a double movement, no try. Like, what? I find it very difficult to understand what was seen there, especially with that obstruction call. Like, okay, I'm fine. Maybe he's seen that he's rolled his arm forward and thought he was short on first contact. Okay, that's fine. You can live with that. It's fine. You can live with the forward pass call. The penalty count was ridiculous, but it happens. Maybe the Rabbitohs were ill-disciplined. I didn't think they were that ill-disciplined for it to be 9-3 penalty count. And some of these penalties I just thought were terrible calls. That obstruction call was like, I don't know. And I was watching it with a couple of different people. The person I was watching with at the time turns to me and goes, what was that? Where was the obstruction there? I just didn't even see it. The half turns in and Jaden Bishop goes straight through. There was not a thing wrong with it. But yeah, terrible, just terribly officiated game. I felt very bad for the Rabbitohs. Again, they had their chances. 4 line breaks to 1. You've got to turn those line breaks into tries. Charlie Baitup went through at one point and nearly scored. Just got cut short, and then they went out to the right, and then another egregious call with the I actually can't even remember what they called because I was looking back at the video of it and it was just like I think they might have called tackled in the air, but it was just a contest, and then it got knocked forward and then picked up by the Newcastle Knights off. I think he might have been in an offside position. I'll have to rewatch that a little bit closer, but anyway, I won't go too much into it. For the Rabbitohs though, in terms of positives, Peyton Tattau, best player in the competition. Again, 2 huge plays from him to get the South Sydney Rabbitohs back into it. four-man cutout ball for Benjamin Wright's try, massive, and then scored a try as well to make it 12 points to 10. His stats, 15 runs for 187 metres, a try assist, 4 line break assists. Every single line break that they had came off of him. Back five were all very good, particularly Davida Hopewade. I thought he was unreal in this game. He had probably his best game of the season. 15 runs for 165 metres. He had a couple of huge plays throughout that. He got them into very good field position at one stage, returning the ball, and he just came up with a couple of very big plays. Harry Doherty was very good. I've mentioned Diesel Galanta. Diesel Galanta and Malachi Faivea, probably establishing themselves as two of the best centres in the Harold Matthews competition. My centres of the year were Laura Masiasiu, and I'd stick by having him there. Kingston Finau was there as well. He was awesome for the Magpies this season. Based on the final series, though, it'd be hard to not have one of Diesel Galanta or Malachi Faivea there. It's just the dominance in which they've played in the finals, and you haven't been able to see Kingston Finau for a month as well, so that doesn't help his case at all. But, very, very good performance from those two. And then Anthony Malungi as well. I thought he was at his physical best in this game. 138 metres, 23 tackles. But he just up for the contest through the middle, and there was a lot of times where Knights forward was get sent back and look at who the tackler was, and it was Malungi. He was just at his physical best in this game, and I felt very, very bad for South Sydney here, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. They couldn't quite execute on their opportunities, and they had their chances to win the game. I will agree with people that I've had a lot of messages from South Sydney people as well, and I thought it live. Not influenced at all by any of these messages. I wholeheartedly agree with a lot of what they're saying. The robbed calls, okay. The refereeing definitely had an impact on the game, and there was 3 tries there that were probably tries that probably get called tries every other day of the week, and got called back, and that has an impact on the score sheet. But when you dominate run meters and dominate line breaks and all these sorts of things, it means that you're not. If you've only scored 10 points, it means that you're not quite executing. And that was the case for the Rabbitohs in certain moments. Like I said, in certain moments. There were some moments where they executed perfectly and the ref took it away from them. But yeah, full credit to the Knights. Top performance. Keen to see how they go next week against the Roosters. Remember, tune in tomorrow for my full podcast. I'll preview the grand finals for these two competitions as well in that podcast. But other than that, see you on the next one.